The touch that changed everything. Jake Carter never believed in fate. He was just a human engineer, fixing broken machines on a massive space station. He wasn't a warrior, a diplomat, or anyone important. But fate had other plans. He was working inside the Galactic Trade Hub, the largest space station in the Orion sector. It was a place where aliens of all kinds came together for business, politics, and alliances. Jake's job was simple: repair power grids, fix broken circuits, and stay out of trouble. But trouble found him anyway. The accident that sealed his fate. Jake was crouched beside a power terminal, checking for faulty wires. His hands were covered in grease, and his mind was focused on getting the job done. He barely noticed the approaching footsteps. A soft voice spoke above him. "You, human, move aside." Jake blinked and looked up. Standing before him was Tyra, a tall alien woman with violet skin and glowing golden eyes. She wore a regal robe decorated with silver embroidery. A golden circlet rested on her forehead, marking her as royalty. Jake had no idea who she was. He only saw a person standing too close to the exposed circuits. "Careful, lady," he muttered, wiping his hands on his jumpsuit. "This thing's unstable. You don't want to get shocked." Zira narrowed her eyes. "I said, move." She reached for a control panel beside him. Without thinking, Jake grabbed her wrist to stop her. And that was his mistake. A blaring alarm rang through the hall. Bright red lights flashed from the walls. A mechanical voice echoed through the station. "Bone and DQON FFIR. ET. Marriage law activated." Jake froze. "What?" Zyra's face turned pale. Her glowing eyes widened in horror. "No." Guards in silver armor stormed into the room, their weapons raised. The air grew thick with tension. A massive alien officer, twice Jake's size, pointed at him and growled, "You touched the princess. By galactic law, you are now her husband." Jake's brain shut down. Husband. He laughed nervously. Whoa, hold on. This is a mistake. I was just." Silence. The guard barked. "The law is absolute. The punishment for breaking the royal bond is death." Jake felt his stomach drop. What kind of messed up rule was this? No escape from galactic law. Zyra pulled her hand away, shaking with anger. "This is ridiculous. He is a mere human. The bond should not apply." But the AI system did not care. The robotic voice announced again. "Marriage law activated. No reversal possible. Husband and wife must report to the Galactic Court." Jake looked around, hoping someone would laugh and tell him this was all a bad joke. But the guards looked deadly serious. Their weapons hummed with energy. One wrong move, and they would shoot him on the spot. Zyra's fists clenched. She turned to her guards. "Take him to the court. My father must hear of this." The next thing Jake knew, he was being dragged through the shining halls of the trade hub. Aliens of all shapes and sizes turned to watch. Some whispered, some laughed. A human, bonded to the princess. Poor creature, he will never survive. The Emperor will kill him for sure. Jake gulped. He had no idea what was happening, but one thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. The Dark Throne awaits. The Galactic Court was a grand golden hall with towering pillars and floating orbs of light. At the center sat Emperor Valzarin, ruler of the Zyrex Empire. His piercing golden eyes stared down at Jake like a predator watching its prey. The Emperor's voice was cold and sharp. "You touched my daughter." Jake raised his hands. "It wasn't on purpose, I swear. I was just." Silence. The hall went deathly quiet. The Emperor leaned forward. "Do you know the punishment for violating the royal bond?" Jake's mouth went dry. "Here it comes. Marriage or death." Jake's heart pounded. His entire fate depended on a single choice: marry an alien princess or die. Zyra glared at him. She looked just as trapped as he felt. Jake clenched his fists. There had to be a way out of this. But as he stood in front of the Galactic throne, under the watchful eyes of the Emperor, he realized escape was not an option. This was just the beginning. The unbreakable law. Jake Carter had been in trouble before. He had worked on shady space stations, dealt with malfunctioning AI, and even survived a pirate raid once. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to this. Standing in the grand court of the Zyrex Empire, he felt like a bug waiting to be crushed. The massive golden throne loomed over him, seated by Emperor Valzaren, a terrifying figure with piercing golden eyes and dark armor that shimmered like a starless void. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the soft hum of energy shields surrounding the court. And at his side stood Zyra, the alien princess he had accidentally married. She wasn't looking at him. Her jaw was clenched, her violet skin darkened with frustration. Jake could tell she was just as angry about this situation as he was. But none of that mattered, because the next words from the Emperor's mouth would decide Jake's fate. A law older than empires. The Emperor's deep voice echoed through the hall. Do you understand what you have done, human? Jake swallowed hard. He had to choose his words carefully. Sir, with all due respect, I think there's been a mistake. I didn't mean to. Slam. The Emperor's fist crashed onto the armrest of his throne. The floor trembled. The law of eternal bonding is absolute. It has existed for 10,000 years. It does not recognize mistakes. Jake tensed. 10,000 years. This was not some random rule. They had built their entire empire around it. A robed alien judge stepped forward, holding a floating scroll made of shimmering blue light. His voice was mechanical, translated through the court's eye. The moment the princess's skin was touched, the bond was formed. Galactic law is clear. Once a royal is bonded, the marriage cannot be undone. Jake shook his head in disbelief. You mean, I can't just say sorry and walk away? The entire court laughed. A cruel, mocking sound. The Emperor smirked. You think this is a joke? You are now a member of the royal house. You must accept your duty. Zyra crossed her arms, finally speaking. Father, this is nonsense. He is unworthy. He is a technician. Jake felt a pang of irritation. Technician. As if he was some lowly worker unfit to breathe the same air as them. But then again, compared to an alien princess, he probably was. The two choices, death or marriage. The Emperor leaned forward. His golden eyes gleamed with cold amusement. Very well. If you do not wish to honor the bond, there is another option. Jake didn't like the sound of that. What option? A guard stepped forward, holding a small black cube. The moment he activated it, a hologram appeared, showing an empty black void. The Emperor smiled cruelly. The void execution. The court fell silent. Even Zyra stiffened. Jake frowned. The what now? The judge's voice was cold. The void execution is the fate of those who break sacred laws. The criminal is cast into deep space, stripped of protection, left to drift in darkness until the cold claims them. Jake's blood turned to ice. Drifting alone in space, slowly freezing, unable to breathe. He had seen enough horror movies to know that was one of the worst ways to go. His mind raced. There had to be a way out. Some loophole. Some way to prove this was all ridiculous. He turned to Zyra. You don't want this either, right? You said I'm unworthy. Tell them to cancel it. Zyra met his gaze, her expression unreadable. For a moment, she almost looked conflicted. But then she shook her head. I cannot. The law is absolute. Jake clenched his fists. So that was it. He either became an alien princess's husband or got tossed into deep space to die. The court's decision. The Emperor rose from his throne, his towering figure casting a long shadow over the room. Then let it be decided. You will be bonded by the right of eternal union. Boom. A sudden explosion rocked the chamber. Flames burst through the far wall, sending guards flying. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed as figures in dark armor stormed into the court, wielding energy weapons. Jake coughed, trying to make sense of the chaos. Who the hell was attacking now? Zyra's expression darkened. The Crocs. Jake's stomach twisted. He had heard of the Crocs before. A ruthless alien race, sworn enemies of the Zyrex Empire. The Emperor stood tall, completely unfazed. "You dare attack my court?" One of the armored figures stepped forward, his red eyes gleaming. "Your empire is weak, Valzaran. The old laws will fall today." Jake took a step back, his mind racing. This was bad. And then, before he could react, one of the Crocs assassins raised a blaster and fired. Right at Tyra. Jake didn't think. He moved. Instinct took over. He grabbed Xyra and tackled her to the ground. The energy blast shot past them, barely missing her head. For a split second, Xyra looked up at him, eyes wide with shock. Jake's heart pounded. He had just saved her life. The Emperor watched, his gaze unreadable. Then, with a slow, deep voice, he said, "Guards, secure the court, and take my daughter's husband to safety." Jake groaned. Oh, come on. The impossible escape. Jake Carter had never been good at staying out of trouble. But this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. In the span of a single day, he had gone from being a simple human engineer to being the unwilling husband of an alien princess, all because of some ancient, unbreakable law. And if that wasn't bad enough, now the entire royal court was under attack by alien invaders known as the Crocs. Blaster fire filled the air. Guards shouted orders, and the floor trembled beneath his feet. The massive golden throne room that once stood as a symbol of power was now a battlefield. And in the center of the chaos, Jake was being dragged away. The Emperor's orders. "Move. Keep him safe." A royal guard barked as he pulled Jake through a hidden exit behind the throne. Jake struggled. "Hey, let go. I can fight." The guard shoved him forward. "You are the princess's husband. You must be protected at all costs." Jake scowled. Husband. That word still felt insane to him. He had met Xyra less than an hour ago. Speaking of Xyra, she was right beside him, her face cold and unreadable as she ran with them through the hidden corridor. She wasn't happy about this either. The walls trembled as another explosion rocked the palace. The air smelled of burnt metal and smoke. "This is pointless," Xyra snapped. "We should be fighting, not running." The guard ignored her. "Your father ordered your safety first, princess." Jake looked back at the sealed door behind them. He could still hear the battle raging inside. This wasn't his fight. He was just a human engineer caught in an alien mess. And yet, he had thrown himself in front of a blaster to save Tyra. Why? He wasn't sure. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was because he wasn't the kind of guy to stand by while someone else got hurt. But one thing was clear. He needed to get the hell out of here. The escape plan. The hidden corridor opened into a docking bay filled with sleek, royal ships. Jake's heart leaped. A way out. "Perfect," he muttered. "I'll just grab a ship end." Xyra blocked his path. Her golden eyes burned with anger. "Where do you think you're going?" Jake exhaled sharply. "Oh, I don't know, I didn't ask to be part of this royal drama. If I can get to a neutral zone, maybe the Galactic Council can sort this mess out." Xyra's expression darkened. "There is no escaping this. The law is absolute. If you run, my father will send hunters after you." Jake crossed his arms. "Then maybe your father needs to update his stupid laws." For a moment, Xyra just stared at him, her jaw tight. Then, to his surprise, she let out a quiet chuckle. "You're either brave or incredibly foolish, human." Jake smirked. "Let's go with both." A dangerous choice. Before Xyra could stop him, Jake sprinted toward one of the docked ships. Big mistake. The moment his hand touched the controls, alarms blared. A cold, robotic voice echoed through the docking bay. Unauthorized access detected. Security lockdown activated. Zira shook her head. You are officially royal now. Only authorized royals can fly these ships. Jake groaned. Oh, come on. I can't even steal a ship properly. Then the alarms changed. A new voice spoke over the intercom, one that made Kyra freeze. This is General Kravos of the Crocs Empire. We have breached the palace walls. Surrender now, and you may yet live. Jake turned to Kyra. Who the hell is Kravos? Her grip tightened on her weapon. The one alien who wants me dead more than you do. Trapped between two enemies. The docking bay doors slammed shut. A red force field covered the exits. Jake's stomach sank. They were trapped. The guards formed a defensive line in front of Kyra. Princess, we must get you to a safer location. Kyra ignored them. She was focused on the approaching figures at the far end of the bay. The Crocs warriors stepped into view, hulking reptilian aliens covered in black armor. Their leader, General Kravos, was even bigger than the rest. His red eyes glowed with malice. His voice was deep and mocking. Princess Kyra, finally, we meet. Kyra lifted her chin. Kravos, you are as ugly as the last time I saw you. Jake blinked. Wait, you know this guy. Kravos grinned, showing sharp fangs. Oh, we go way back, human. Her father once promised her to me. Jake froze. Excuse me, what? Kyra sighed. It was a political deal. My father changed his mind. Kravos did not take it well. Kravos's smile widened. And now, princess, I will have what is rightfully mine. His red eyes shifted to Jake. Unless you still claim her as your own. Jake's mind raced. If he said yes, he'd be fighting a massive, bloodthirsty alien warlord. If he said no, Kravos would kill him and take Kyra anyway. This was not how he imagined his day going. He looked at Kyra. She was watching him carefully. For the first time, she wasn't treating him like a nuisance. She was waiting for his answer. Jake sighed. Why me? He cracked his knuckles and took a step forward. Listen, big guy. I don't care about your empire, your war, or your stupid marriage deals. But if you think I'm just going to step aside and let you take her. His eyes locked onto Kravos's glowing red stare. Then you've got another thing coming. The court erupted in chaos. Kravos lunged forward. The guards opened fire. And Jake. He just threw the first punch. The battle that changed everything. The moment Jake's fist connected with Kravos's armored jaw, he knew he had made a terrible mistake. The hulking reptilian warlord barely flinched. Instead, he let out a low, rumbling growl, one that sounded far too amused for Jake's liking. You've got spirit, human. Kravos wiped the spot where Jake had struck him. I'll make sure to crush it first. Then he swung. Jake barely had time to react before a massive scaled fist came flying toward him. He ducked just in time, feeling the rush of air as Kravos's punch shattered a steel column behind him. Oh, great. He was fighting an alien tank. The chaos of war. The entire docking bay erupted into chaos. Zyrek's royal guards rushed forward, opening fire with energy rifles, while Crocs warriors charged in, wielding blades that crackled with plasma energy. Zyra, moving like a shadow, spun into the fight, her twin plasma daggers slicing through the air. She was faster than lightning, ducking and weaving through enemy strikes. Jake? He was just trying not to die. Diving behind a storage crate, he narrowly avoided a blast from one of the Croc soldiers. His heart pounded. He was an engineer, not a soldier. But he had to think fast. There had to be something in this docking bay he could use to turn the fight. His eyes darted around. Then he saw it. The security control panel. If he could just get to it. Kravos versus Kyra. Meanwhile, Kyra and Kravos were locked in a deadly dance. The Croc's warlord swung his massive sword, aiming to cleave her in half. Zyra twisted midair, flipping over him and slashing at his side. Sparks flew as her daggers barely pierced his armor. Kravos grinned, "Still fast, little princess, but you will tire." Zyra narrowed her eyes. "And you will bleed." She launched forward, feinting left before spinning right, slicing across his chest plate. This time, her blade found a weak spot. Kravos snarled in pain. But before Zyra could press her advantage, a Croc soldier tackled her from behind, pinning her to the ground. Kravos loomed over her, his sword raised high. "Say goodbye, princess." Jake's gamble. Jake saw Zyra go down. He didn't think. He ran. Diving toward the security panel, he ripped off the access panel and started rewiring. His fingers moved on instinct, bypassing the Zyrex royal security systems. One wrong move, and the entire place could explode. But he had no other choice. Behind him, he heard Kravos' sword whistle through the air, aimed right at Zyra's throat. Jake gritted his teeth. Almost there. Almost. Done. With a final spark, he slammed the activation switch. The entire docking bay roared to life, turning the tide. Alarms blared. Docking clamps unlocked. A wave of electromagnetic pulses surged through the bay, disrupting Croc's weapons and shields. Kravos staggered as his energy sword flickered out. Zyra took her chance. With a sharp twist, she threw her attacker off and drove her dagger deep into Kravos' leg. The warlord roared in pain, staggering back. The tables had turned. Retreat, for now. The Croc's soldiers, now outmatched, began to fall back. Kravos clutched his wound, his red eyes burning with hatred as he glared at Jake. "This isn't over, human." His voice was a promise. "I will take her, and I will kill you." Then, with a sharp command, he and his soldiers vanished into the smoke, retreating into the shadows. The battle was over. For now. Aftermath. A new enemy. A new ally. The docking bay was left in ruins. Fires crackled, metal beams lay twisted, and the air was thick with smoke. Jake exhaled heavily, resting against a wall. His heart was still pounding. He looked at Zyra. "So, that guy was your ex-fiancé, huh?" She shot him a glare. "Not by choice." Jake smirked. "Well, I can see why you said no." To his surprise, Zyra actually let out a small laugh. She stepped closer, watching him carefully. "You could have run, human. You had your chance." Jake shrugged. "Yeah, well, I have a habit of making bad decisions." Zyra studied him for a long moment. Then, to his shock, she extended her hand. "Perhaps not all of them." Jake hesitated. Then, slowly, he took it. For the first time since this whole mess began. It didn't feel like a mistake, a hero or a husband. The fires in the docking bay had finally burned out, leaving behind the wreckage of a battle that should never have happened. The Crocs had retreated, but their attack had sent a clear message. The Zyrex Empire was vulnerable. And now so was Jake. He stood in the aftermath, watching as Zyrex soldiers worked to secure the area. Guards dragged away injured warriors, repairing what they could. The royal palace, once untouchable, had been breached. The Emperor would not take this lightly. Jake exhaled and ran a hand through his sweat-drenched hair. This was not how he imagined his first day as an unwilling alien husband. And yet, the strangest part of it all, he was still alive. More than that, he had just saved an alien princess's life. The Emperor's summons. "You, human, come." Jake turned as a Zyrex royal guard motioned for him to follow. He sighed. "Here we go." As they walked through the ruined palace, Zyra walked beside him, silent. Jake glanced at her. "So, your dad, he's not gonna have me executed for all this, right?" Zyra didn't look at him. "That depends on his mood." Jake groaned. "Fantastic." They entered the grand throne room, where the Emperor sat waiting. His golden eyes burned like twin suns, his expression unreadable. The room was eerily quiet. The court had gathered, high-ranking generals, alien ambassadors, even royal advisors, all whispering amongst themselves. At the center of it all, sitting on that golden throne, was Emperor Valzaran, and he was staring directly at Jake. The Emperor's verdict: "You should not be alive, human." The Emperor's voice was cold, heavy with authority. Jake cleared his throat. "Yeah, well, I'm full of surprises," the court murmured. A human daring to speak so casually to the Emperor, it was unheard of. Valzaran tapped his fingers against the armrest. "You disobeyed my orders. Instead of fleeing, you fought. Instead of dying, you lived." Jake stiffened. That didn't sound like a compliment. Zara stepped forward, her tone measured. "Father, he saved my life." The Emperor's eyes flicked to her. "You do not need saving, daughter." Jake let out a laugh. No offense, Your Majesty, but you weren't there." Kravos nearly took her head off. A tense silence followed. Then, for the first time, the Emperor smirked. "And yet you stood before a warlord. You defied the Crocs and survived. Tell me, human, what do you want as a reward?" Jake blinked. "Wait, what?" The court gasped. "A reward? A human being given a choice by the Emperor himself." Jake opened his mouth, then closed it again. Was this a trick? The choice: freedom or power. The Emperor leaned forward. "You may choose. You may take a royal starship and leave this empire. You will be granted safe passage, and no Xerex shall hunt you. Or you may stay and accept your place as my daughter's rightful husband." Jake froze. This was it. His chance. If he chose freedom, he could leave, forget all of this, and never deal with alien politics again. But if he chose to stay, he glanced at Tyra. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. Jake sighed. Why was this so damn complicated? He looked back at the Emperor. "So, let me get this straight. If I leave, I go free. If I stay, I get dragged into an intergalactic power struggle, an ancient marriage law, and a whole empire's worth of responsibility." Valzaran smirked. "Correct." Jake rubbed his temples. "And if I say no to both?" The Emperor's smile disappeared. "Then I execute you." Jake groaned. Of course. The unexpected decision. The court waited. The tension in the air was suffocating. Finally, Jake exhaled and looked at Zyra. "If I stay, I want something in return." Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Oh." Jake nodded. "No more forced marriage. No more laws saying I belong to someone just because of an accident. If I stay, I do it on my own terms." The court erupted in shocked whispers. The Emperor's smirk returned. Interesting. A human who dares bargain with an emperor. Silence fell. Then Valzaran let out a deep, booming laugh. "Very well. If you wish to earn your place, then you will prove yourself." Jake frowned. Prove myself how?" The Emperor's golden eyes gleamed. "By surviving the trials of kings." Jake's stomach dropped. That did not sound fun. The trials begin. Later that night, Jake stood on a massive balcony, overlooking the alien city below. The sky was filled with glowing moons, the streets lined with towering buildings pulsing with neon lights. It was beautiful. Zyra stood beside him. "You had a chance to leave," she said quietly. "Why didn't you take it?" Jake shrugged. "I guess I wanted to see where this goes." She glanced at him, something almost like amusement in her golden eyes. "You are a strange human, Jake Carter." Jake smirked. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She turned back to the city. The trials of kings are brutal. No outsider has ever survived them. Jake took a deep breath. "Well, guess I'll be the first." Zyra's expression softened, and for the first time since they met, she didn't look at him as a burden. She looked at him as an ally. The final decision. Jake Carter stood at the edge of a massive arena, staring at the impossible challenge before him. The Trials of Kings. A brutal test of skill, intelligence, and survival. A trial designed to prove only the strongest, most cunning rulers were worthy to rule. No outsider had ever survived. And yet here he was. Not as a warrior, not as a prince, not even as a man who belonged in this world. Just as Jake Carter, a human, a man who had never asked for any of this, a man who should have walked away when given the chance. And yet he had stayed. Now, with thousands of Zyrex nobles and warriors watching from above, he was about to prove, not just to them, but to himself, that he wasn't just some unlucky human caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was here for a reason, and he would win. The Arena of Kings. The colossal stadium stretched for miles, its floors shifting like living metal, constantly changing to create new dangers. Floating platforms, spiked walls, lava pits, and mechanical beasts lurked within its depths. A single mistake, a single misstep, and he was dead. Jake exhaled. All right. No pressure. Across from him, his competitors stood ready. 7 challengers. 7 of the strongest Zyrex warriors in the Empire. Towering aliens with enhanced armor, razor-sharp claws, and weapons that could slice through steel. Jake had none of that. Just his wits, his fists, and a burning refusal to die today. Then, above them, the Emperor's voice boomed across the stadium. The Trials of Kings begin. A deafening horn blasted through the air. And suddenly, the ground beneath Jake's feet disappeared. Trial 1. The Fall of the Weak. Jake plummeted into darkness. Wind roared past his ears as he tumbled through the air. His stomach twisted. Where was the ground? Then, he saw it. A massive network of shifting platforms, each one floating and moving at terrifying speeds. Some spun. Some crumbled. Some were covered in deadly energy spikes. The first test was simple. Land safely, or die. Jake angled his body, squinting through the rushing wind. To his left, a Zyrex warrior landed gracefully on a floating disc, using his energy boots. To his right, another used his built-in cybernetic limbs to latch onto a platform. Jake. He had a bad knee and a questionable diet. Crap, crap, crap. Food. He hit the edge of a spinning platform, rolled hard, and barely grabbed onto the side before he fell again. His fingertips burned as he dangled over a bottomless void. The crowd cheered, but Jake had no time to enjoy it. One of the other warriors, a giant reptilian Zyrex covered in thick armor, was already charging toward him, swinging a massive axe. Jake gritted his teeth. Oh, come on. He pulled himself up just in time to dodge a crushing strike. Trial 2. The hunt begins. The floating arena shifted again, and suddenly, the platforms merged into a deadly battlefield. Jake found himself in a dense jungle filled with alien creatures. A robotic voice echoed overhead. Trial 2. The hunt. Only 5 may advance. Jake's heart pounded. 5. There were still 7 of them left. That meant 2 of them weren't making it out of here. A beast roared in the distance. Jake turned, just in time to see a massive, 6-legged alien predator pounce from the trees. He barely rolled out of the way as its claws slammed into the dirt, leaving deep craters. Jake scrambled to his feet, mind racing. No weapons, no armor, no fancy tech. How the hell was he supposed to fight this thing? Then suddenly, a blur of movement. Syra. She appeared out of nowhere, slicing through the beast's neck with her plasma daggers. The creature let out a final snarl before collapsing. Jake stared. You're not supposed to be here. Syra smirked. I'm not, but let's just say I have a personal interest in you surviving. Jake huffed. Well, that makes one of us. She tossed him a weapon, a small plasma baton. You'll need it. Jake caught it, feeling the energy hum beneath his grip. He turned, just in time to see the next challenger coming for him. Trial 3. The Duel of Fate. Only 5 warriors remained. The jungle disappeared, shifting into a coliseum of stone and fire. A massive energy dome surrounded them. The robotic voice spoke again. Trial 3. The Duel. Prove your worth. Only 3 may advance. Jake's stomach sank. Now it was one-on-one combat. And his opponent, the biggest, meanest Zyrex warrior in the entire arena. A 7-foot-tall brute covered in obsidian armor, wielding an energy warhammer. Jake sighed. You've got to be kidding me. The warrior charge. Jake barely dodged, rolling under the massive swing. The ground shattered where the hammer struck. Jake spun, using the plasma baton to strike, but it barely dented the warrior's armor. He needed a new plan. Fast. Then he noticed it. The warrior's armor had one weak point, right at the base of his neck. Jake smirked. Gotcha. The warrior swung again. This time, Jake didn't dodge. Instead, he ran straight at him. At the last second, he dropped, sliding under the warrior's legs and driving the plasma baton straight into the weak spot. A blast of energy rippled through the warrior's body. The brute staggered, then collapsed. The crowd erupted into cheers. Jake panted, looking down at his fallen opponent. He had won. Again. The final decision. Only 3 warriors remained. Jake, a Zyrex noble, and a cybernetic warlord. Above them, the Emperor stood. You have proven yourselves worthy. His voice echoed. But now, you must choose. Jake narrowed his eyes. Choose what? The Emperor's golden eyes burned. Your path. Accept your role as part of the royal family and wield the power that comes with it. Reject the throne, but remain a warrior of the Zyrex Empire, free to forge your own destiny. Walk away, leave, and never return. Jake looked at Tyra, then at the empire he had accidentally become a part of. His entire future came down to this moment. Jake took a deep breath, and then he made his choice. A new beginning. The entire grand arena fell silent. Jake Carter stood in the center, covered in cuts, bruises, and exhaustion, staring up at Emperor Valzaren, who watched from his golden throne above. The words still echoed through the air. Make your choice, a choice that would define the rest of his life. The weight of a decision. Jake exhaled, scanning the faces around him. The Zyrex nobles, warriors, and spectators, aliens from across the empire, stared at him with a mix of shock and curiosity. No human had ever stood here. No outsider had ever survived the trials of kings. And yet here he was. He glanced at Tyra. She stood just beyond the trial grounds, her golden eyes locked on his. She had helped him, saved him, watched him fight when she could have let him fail. She wanted to know his choice, too. Did he accept the power, the responsibility, the throne? Did he reject it all and walk away? Or did he take a different path? Jake lifted his chin and met the Emperor's gaze. And then he spoke. The human who refused to be owned. I'm not a king. A murmur ran through the crowd. Gasps, whispers, confusion. The Emperor's expression remained unreadable. Is that your final decision? Jake shook his head. No, I didn't say I was leaving, either. Silence. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. Explain. Jake stepped forward. From the moment I got here, people have been telling me what I have to do. That I have to follow your laws. That I have to marry your daughter because of some stupid rule. That I have to fight to prove my worth. He looked around the arena. I've had to prove myself over and over again. But you know what? He grinned. I think I just did. Another wave of shocked whispers ran through the court. Jake pointed toward the Emperor. I beat your warriors. I survived your trials. I stood my ground when your enemies attacked. His voice grew sharper. So I'll tell you what's going to happen now. More gasps. Zyra's lips curved into the faintest smirk. Jake folded his arms. I'm not taking your throne. I'm not marrying Zyra just because some law says I have to. And I'm sure as hell not running away. He glanced at Tyra. If I stay, it's because I choose to, not because of some ancient tradition. Then he turned back to the Emperor. And if you have a problem with that, well, I can always beat up some more of your guys until you change your mind. Silence. For one long, agonizing moment, nobody moved. Then, the Emperor laughed. A deep, booming sound that echoed through the entire arena. The crowd stared in disbelief. Even Zyra's eyes widened slightly. Jake tensed. Was this the part where he got vaporized? The Emperor rose from his throne. You truly are something else, human. A new path. The Emperor's gaze swept over the gathered nobles. No outsider has ever dared to stand before me and reject my command. No warrior has ever refused the power offered to them. And yet, this human has done both. The court murmured in disbelief. Jake held his ground. Then, to his shock, the Emperor smiled. So be it. Gasps filled the air. Valzarin lifted a hand. From this day forward, Jake Carter is no longer bound by the old laws. His fate is his own. Asterisk. Jake's breath caught. Did he just win? The Emperor wasn't done. And yet, I cannot let such strength go to waste. You do not wish to rule, but you have proven yourself worthy of something greater. Jake raised an eyebrow. What exactly does that mean? The Emperor's eyes gleamed. It means you are now an official warrior of the Zyrex Empire. A fighter. A leader. And whether you accept it or not, a symbol of something new. Jake blinked. Wait. What? Zyra chuckled. Congratulations, Jake. You just became the first human ever recognized as a warrior of our empire. Jake groaned. I just got drafted, didn't I? Zyra smirked. Oh, absolutely. The road ahead. That night, Jake stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling alien city below. The streets glowed with neon lights, ships soared between towering skyscrapers, and the stars above seemed endless. Zyra stood beside him. You surprised them today, she admitted. You surprised me. Jake smirked. That's kind of my thing. She glanced at him, studying him carefully. You could have left. Jake sighed, staring at the stars. Yeah, he muttered. I could have. He didn't say it out loud, but something had changed. Maybe it was Kyra. Maybe it was the Empire. Maybe it was the feeling that for the first time, he was standing at the start of something bigger than himself. And for once, he wasn't running. Kyra leaned against the balcony railing. So, what now, human? Jake grinned. Now. He cracked his knuckles. Now we shake things up. Epilogue. The dawn of something new. Across the galaxy, a storm was coming. The Crocs warlord, Kravos, watched the holographic footage of Jake standing before the Zyrex Empire. His claws tightened into fists. He should not have survived. His voice was a growl. A dark figure stepped out from the shadows beside him. And yet he did. Kravos's eyes burned with rage. Then we will make sure he does not survive the next time. The hologram flickered off. The war had just begun.